Here's the story behind Shift. So my whole life, I've done what other people wanted me to do. I've adjusted to be a square peg in a round hole. And my whole life, I've been ran by so many different ideas about money, about who I am, about my life, and why certain things happen to me, or like why do they come into my experience. And so my motivation behind Shift was to do something that I loved, and to do something that ultimately would help the rest of the world and other human beings evolve their level of consciousness and have access to tools and practical ways to actually shift their state of being from one of maybe suffering, which could be anger or sadness or fear, to one of happiness, which is gratitude and joy and peace. So that's why I founded Shift, really. My motivation behind it was really like, I realized that I had read so many books and I had adopted so many different things from each of these books, from morning rituals and routines to meditation to cold plunges or breath work to different types of mental practices that I would do, goal setting, all these different things. And the details of each one of these little practices, I know were just scattered throughout all kinds of different texts in different places. And I wanted human beings, and especially myself and others, to be able to identify how we were feeling and then have immediate access to all these different talk tracks or logic tracks or different little games and activities or thought processes to shift themselves into a better state. So the idea first came about because I was basically sitting there and not happy with my life. I've dealt with depression before. I've dealt with really being like a victim ultimately, like going through a lot of shit and just being like, why is this happening to me? And I hated how that felt. I just felt like it was so untrue. And, now realizing like what these things are is learning catalysts. So using these types of experiences in our lives and learning from them and having a place and somebody to talk to actually reflect back what I'm learning and ask me the right questions was my origin for Shift. I ultimately wanted to understand, like, why am I not happy? And then additionally, I wanted to provide this type of learning experience and learning catalyst for other human beings. The original version came out as a gratitude app. I figured if we could be grateful for everything that happened in our lives, unconditional love is what I think about. And that's what I believe unconditional love is. If you look at any of the sacred texts or any of the religious texts that are out there, they're like, unconditional love is the way, right? And what does that actually mean? It means accepting and loving your entire experience. So that's the victimhood mentality I have. That's being angry or resentful towards somebody. That's the losses that I experience in sports or business or relationships. It's loving and accepting them all, because that's what unconditional love is. Conditional love would be, hey, like, you're doing this for me, I love you. Oh, this is good, I love it. Anything bad, it's not a part of my experience, and that's not what unconditional love is. So I wanted to build something that could teach me and constantly improve my journey to unconditional love, which is loving and accepting everybody and everything in my experience. Because any type of suffering, usually a resistance to accepting and loving something that's happening in our experience. How I would describe the core mission of Shift is to raise the level of consciousness of every human being. What set me out on this journey was when I had my son and I felt like a victim to the system. I felt like a victim to my son's mother. I felt like a victim to my circumstances, like not having enough money, not having a significant other to support me, and all of these ideas of victim mentality that were shifting around and moving around in my head. I built Shift and the core mission of that from that period. And at that time, it was about helping the world cure victim mentality, because I think the ego loves to be a victim to our experience, and it loves to keep us separate from our experience, therefore not being able to love our experience. The duality of good and bad, it's all one. And loving the experience unconditionally and accepting human beings and our circumstances is the way to raise our level of consciousness. So the core mission of Shift is to help human beings raise and evolve their level of consciousness. So what sets apart Shift from other mental health or self-improvement apps currently on the market is we've implemented a chat AI bot that can actually converse with you and pull you deeper into your emotions and ask you questions that help you dive deeper into knowing yourself. Right now, there's no apps that do that out there that are doing that in real time. And the other part that I think separates us is how we view mental health and how we view self-improvement. It's really about this journey. And each journey you go on in Shift is about knowing it's about the journey and not the destination. It's about continually accepting and loving everything in your experience and knowing that it never stops. It's going to go on forever. And we want to provide an environment where people can feel good about their progress as well as advance their understanding about the world and the universe that we live in. The detailed overview of our app's key features. So the main thing that I think that will change the game for a lot of human beings is knowing yourself. So being in touch with ourselves is some of the most important things that we can learn in this experience. And the way that we do that is through knowing how we're currently feeling. If we know how we're currently feeling, we're going to be able to plot a course to feeling better or shifting to a better state of being. So immediately when you get into Shift, one of the first things it's going to ask you is how you're feeling. And the most basic way to do that is through, am I feeling good? Am I feeling unmotivated? Or am I feeling bad? So think about that as your beginner stage level 1 for knowing yourself and knowing how you're feeling and knowing where you're currently at. The next important feature of Shift is the chat function. So Shift itself is this entity in the app that will actually converse with you, and based on that first key feature of knowing how you feel, will actually share helpful insights and talk tracks for you to shift your state of being. And in your basic level of level 1 of understanding yourself and knowing yourself and using these little journeys to shift your state of being, you're going to have this interaction with our AI chatbot, which is named Shift, that's going to help change the way that you're feeling in a positive way. It's going to help you see things from a new perspective, and it's going to help you set intentions as well as be grateful for a lot of the things in your life that you don't normally think about. And that's something that's beautiful and dynamic in Shift. The last key feature that I want to talk about is progress. So progress is something that is non-linear. So it's not going to just go up over time. There's going to be lots of ups and downs in your journey on Shift and in your journey in life. So we want to reflect that in your progress bar, and we want to give you this high level bird's eye view of what is actually going on with your life over the last month, over the last week, and give you these insights so you can say, hey, what was going on that week where I was killing it and I felt really good? What happened the week where I dipped? What happened to get me back up, right? And just becoming more aware of what it is that you were feeling and what steps you took to shift to a better state of being is going to provide a ton of insight and ton of knowledge about yourself and your experience. These elements directly contribute to users' mental health and consciousness evolution, because every time we look outside of ourselves, we will not find the truth that lives inside. So each one of these journeys that you go on and the progression over time is going to help you know yourself and know the truth about who you are and where you came from and what this experience in life is all about. And ultimately, what we hope to get each individual user to actually acknowledge is unconditional love. We want to teach these users how to actually manifest unconditional love in their experience. And a lot of our depression and suffering comes from our resistance to accept and to love our experience. So that's how Shift is going to help directly contribute to your mental health and consciousness evolution. My personal connection and specific incidents that helped spark the inception of Shift are really around all the challenges in my life, whether it was having a child out of wedlock on a one-night stand, or it was getting fired from my startup that I started with one of my best friends, or becoming crazily deep in debt, or being scared of just existence and like what my future holds. These things all sparked me to seek answers. And the only way that I can truly evolve myself and ultimately, get to that next level for my personal life is by sharing these things. And so I figured Shift is the way to make these types of revelations and realizations actually scalable to the rest of the world. When I spent thousands of hours and thousands of dollars actually, going through these learnings myself, it was a lot. And I just want to simplify that process for the rest of the humans out there that are looking for this. And that's exactly how my own journey with mental health and consciousness influenced the creation of this app. I want something to be simple. I want people to get in it and see value immediately. I want them to not be overcome or overwhelmed with a lot of the challenging parts of self-development and raising your consciousness. I want them to get the meat and spit out the bones, and ultimately be able to quickly and easily shift their state of being, so more often throughout the day they're actually in a place of happiness, peace, and love. In our first versions of Shift, people were excited about how easy it was to practice gratitude, and since then it's been something that we've actually shifted into a better model. So we've actually added AI to make this an interactive and dynamic experience, and very few people outside of our internal team have actually tested this. So the feedback so far is that it's easy to get into a state of gratitude, and that it's easy to talk to the AI chatbot to actually express their feelings and know how they're feeling. Some of the success stories and transformations that have occurred from using the app are really my personal ones, and some of the close people around me that have checked out the app. By allowing them to focus on their gratitude and using reframing techniques as well as intention setting, they're able to live a happier and more thoughtful and consciousness healthy life.